I get the little fell back here.
Quick question, then I'll turn it into a quick answer. How do you see that changing authors? And my point in this, my idea is you're both touching on something that I think is really interesting, is that books are the slowest form of media to change. You know, going from handwritten to the printing press, which everybody called the devil, to going to massive, to going to print on demand, to going to publishing on websites like we talked about yesterday. You know, the idea, the more I thought about it, and I went to Cracked yesterday just to kind of see what was out there, is nowadays, especially the younger generations that are coming up, they want the massive amounts of information that they can pick and choose what they want, and they want a website that's going to have you know, satirical comedy, news, you know, links to other good stuff, shopping, and you know, serials, you know, sections of books or sections of things that they can read. That's what they're interested in. And I've been playing with an idea that eventually, you know, in a demon-infested world or something, there won't be any real authors anymore. There will be nobody who has a beginning, middle, end plot line where you say, you know, and you said yesterday, you got a lot of reader feedback, and that helps you fix some little things, some little errors. But what if that reader feedback then changes your entire plot? What if that, I mean, do you see any pressure from publishers or pressure from the industry to try to get writers to change, to be more giving to the consumers, a lot like the TV industry is, a lot like you see these musicians like Britney Spears and Kesha who are just a production? I mean, there's nothing there.
That could be done, and you could have it out there. Well, they could do it now, where it's like, let's just cobble together something with, you know, vampires are hot right now, and so let's get some zombies in there.
Yeah.
You know, there's nothing to stop it, and I'm sure the barrier for entry is lower, that you could do that. But in my mind, if there's people that like that, I mean, it's what I mentioned earlier to somebody, is that, or I may have said it here, I forgot what I said, but that, you know, the way that we think of like teenagers or teenage girls and how they've done more reading than I did in school, when, you know, when my room was full of books and nothing but books. Books were what I had instead of friends, right? But they read, and all their reading is, it's, you know, not as in depth, because they're reading magazine type stuff, they're reading Facebooks and their accounts of the friends, they're reading Twitter feeds, they're reading 100 text messages a day, they're reading their favorite blogger, and their blogger may not be talking about anything particularly in depth, but they do read, and there's millions of them, and I would like to tell those people stories. I'll bring it to them, and if it means having a format of, or the book format where by God it stops and shows them the spooky room, that instead of spending all hours describing it, if I can reach those people, tell them a story, relay them a theme, tell them something about people, about the world, about humanity, and relate to it in a way that they're used to seeing, because there's a generation who's grown up reading on screens and screens only now. And they're getting to be in their teens, and the only reading they've done is on screens. They literally may never have, outside of school, when they were forced to, have, for recreation, picked up a book, paid for it, and read it on the page, because they'd be a dork if they had a book. But they're not a dork to have an iPhone. So, in the course of reading about, you know, this gossip column or whatever, and then here's this fictional story about this gossip columnist, so maybe it's very easy to transition into reading that, and it's on the same device, and maybe it's not, you know, presented just as today. You don't think so much of albums, and you think more in terms of individual tracks because of the iTunes era. And so whereas before you think of the 70s and like when the LP format was first invented, they first came with the idea of doing like a concept album with like 25 tracks on it, and it's got a story on it. And that format, you know, has changed now to where it's individual songs. Same thing. Maybe you're not selling them a novel. Maybe you're selling them a chapter every week, forever. Like a TV show. Why not? Why is, because the only reason the novel exists is because, well, stack of papers, like, you can't have one like this tall, because that's, you know, that's ridiculous to carry around. So there's so much of what we think of as the novel format only exists because of these completely artificial limitations. Pages are a certain thickness. costs, printing presses are made to print things, or certain, it can only be so big before nobody wants to carry it anymore. I don't think people fully understand, because so much of what they want to do in ebooks, it's like, how can we take that exact thing, and we'll just take that exact identical thing, same length, same look, and we'll just put it on a device. It's like, no, you're not, you're just beginning to understand what's possible here. Like, you have no concept how many of the barriers have been taken down, and it's like a dog in a yard and the fence has been blown over. It's like, he can sit there and think, wow, I can go like into the neighbor's yard. And I'm like, no, buddy, you can go to the whole world now. And it takes them a while to realize, oh, wait a second, there's like millions of other dogs I can be friends with out there. And it's slowly, I feel like it's in that process of, because it's so limited and it's a black and white screen, and even it is remarkable, and I am probably going to wind up getting one for Christmas, or the Barnes & Noble one. But even then, this is a Model A.
And I don't care how I get the content in front of the readers as long as they're reading. So whatever it takes, especially I write now for teens, so I have to plug into where they are. And they've gone from, well, publishing industry said teens don't read. Then along came this lady named J.K. Rowling and proved that actually teens read and adults read the same thing that teens read and kids read. Whoa, now there's a concept, that scared them. And then along came Stephanie Meyer, who reproved the whole thing that both teens and adults will read the same stuff, and that teens will buy books that are like honking huge. So I'm thinking, I think publishing has a tendency to say, they don't do this, and rather than saying, how do we present content to them that they will do this, or that they might like to do this. And let's see, I think one of these other fellows had a question first, and then, no?
I had a quick follow-up, just
Oh,
real
okay.
quickly. Do you think that change in media is going to change the real quality authors that we've read? I mean, y'all both have books, have actual things that have a plot line that you've worked on, that you've developed.
Hopefully, yeah.
That you've put a lot of yourself into. And I'm thinking back to books that I grew up reading, that were really classics, that where one person sat down and developed something that it created the postmodern world that we're living after now in writing, where there aren't happy endings and there aren't good things, and it doesn't go the way you want to. It makes you feel bad to try to follow along and have tricks played on you and have things happen to you that it really messes with your emotions, and you come out on the other side a bigger person, a better person. And now, especially if you draw it back to the music and movie industry, you don't have bands like Rolling Stones, and you don't have bands like the Sex Pistols, and you don't have bands like Pearl Jam being big out there. You have these individual people who have no support, who are the mouthpiece of a massive amount of people in the background saying, what do people like, how can we put it all together? I mean, do you have any fear as authors of losing that authority or that ability to pull people along the way that you want them to go?
I don't.
You still find those books compelling, though, the classics.
Mm-hmm.
There are lots of people like you, and there always will be. If there's people like you who find it compelling, I mean, I think that the Sex Pistols are out there. Not the actual Sex Pistols, but the next one's out there, but they're out there with a Facebook account and a fan page, and they're giving away MP3s, and they're playing, and they're playing in bars.
That's the
And
difference.
they are able to reach fans all over the planet. Not people who happen to wander into the bar they're playing, but people in Japan and in Korea and South Africa can grab those tracks just as somebody in New York, whatever scene they're on, can hear the music and appreciate it. And I mean, look around you. You came from New York. I'm here from Illinois. What brought us together? All right. Would this have been possible 30 years ago? For people to reach out and connect with each other, I don't think you can. I mean, it's true that next group is not going to make as much money as Lady Gaga, but that is maybe the way it should be. But I would argue that as far as if you're a niche writer and you're writing weird things, you have more of an ability to find the people that like the weird things. And if you're a writer and your specific thing, like you write about unicorns that that are also zombies. These are unicorns
I'll still see one.
that
Revenge zombie unicorns?
they've
Yes.
died and they've been resurrected.
This is cool. You should write that.
But that's your thing. I now have the power to connect with every zombie unicorn fan. There may be 13 of them on the planet. I can find them all.
Good words.
Now the
Where before, if I had shot that to a publisher, they would have laughed me out of the room. But when I showed up with a book saying, hey, this thing, I'm a guy, I was working in a cubicle in an insurance company when I wrote this, understand. I was not connected with the publishing world at all. I had never published anything in print, but showed up at the door with 70,000 people who had read this thing. And suddenly, and for free, but suddenly there's oh yeah, that's something, you know, we could probably sell copies of that. Some of those people would have paid for it, wouldn't they? And I was the punk band version of that, you know. I didn't meet the right people and I didn't have the right friends, and it did not matter. I went right to the readers and titled my book, John Dies at the End. And that's not a marketable title, and it didn't matter, because I went right to the readers and then came there with the readers behind me and said, you know, this is what people like to read, and you know, and we came here because we specifically didn't care what you thought about it. So I think there's all sorts of opportunities there, but there will always be crap. Because there's always a market for crap. And I don't even resent that. You know, I ate at a McDonald's on the way down here. I completely appreciate crap and the value of crap.
This will be extra crappy value meal, yeah.
Paperbacks used to be called paper TV.
Yeah, well,
Yeah, that's right.
Now you
And
see.
pulp.
No.
You're writing pulp.
Yeah. Well, the other thing is there's always been packagers, and they will look at current trends, and I won't mention the book in question, but I just heard from my UK editor that one of the books that's on the top of the YA charts was, and it's not Stephanie Meyer, so I'll take Stephanie Meyer, I'll take that off the plate so nobody thinks that. But it was put together by a packager who said, well, you know, Fallen Angels are big right now, what we need is this, and we're going to find the right author who is the right age, the right demographic, and they put it out there, and it works. And so there's always packagers who will look at those trends and throw them together. I think the people, I have the greatest respect for those authors who go out on a limb and go in odd and weird ways, mostly because that's what I do. So that's why I respect them, because I know it's hard to work against the trends or taking a trend and then flipping it on its ear 180 degrees so that, you know, the reader gets in there and going, yeah, this is going to be another damn Fallen Angel story. And all of a sudden it changes. And that's what the readers want. So I think there's always going to be, as he said, a fair level of crap, some really good stuff, and then there's always the package books, some of which are quite good.
And they got to create trends too, so you don't know what's going to happen. So
You never know.
Maybe some of
They
the
try
weird
to, yeah,
stuff
they try
will
to bootstrap on other phenomena. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. You know, sometimes it helps if your book is said, you know, if you love Stephanie Meyer, you'll love blah, or if you say, you know, and sometimes it doesn't help. You know, it's just other questions, folks.
The other thing is that it's so flexible. You know, I was thinking as you guys were talking of Eric Flint and his 1632, whatever that is. You know, where he started out with one novel of a small West Virginian coal mining town that gets plopped down back into the 100 Years' War in Germany. And that was the book, right? It sold very well. And then he got all of these other people writing him and saying, well, you should do this and you should do that with it. And then he started an online, basically, collection of short stories written by a myriad of people. And another collection of online articles about what would really be possible in 1632 and what wouldn't be possible in 1632, and how did you really make gunpowder in 1632. And so there's this vast majority of information. If you want to know about the 100 Years' War, go to Eric Flint's Ring of Fire website, and you will know more about the 100 Years' War in a very funny, entertaining,